The moment we've all been waiting for. It's time for the 2024 Herbie Awards. And this, of course, is Kirk's doing. It's all in that beautiful brain, Kirk. So tell us a little bit more about how exactly you come up with these awards before we start handing them out.
Well, me and a couple guys look at it and get excited like everybody else who's a fan of college football. And we came up with this probably 20 years ago to come up with different categories. Not that ours names are right, but it just makes people start to debate and start to discuss different categories. When we throw, like, who's the best quarterback out there, everybody has their own thought. So it's a good way to get people talking about the sport, getting people excited, start the arguments here early in August and kind of go from there.
Yeah, 20 or so years, and it never gets old. Let's start with the first award. You ready? It's time for Field General.
Yeah.
Who do we got?
Well, the Field General is the best quarterback in college football. This year, I got to start with Carson Beck, guy that played so well last year, led the SEC in passing, very accurate, really a quick processor, and they're going to be relying on his experience. A lot of people thought he would leave, but he decided to come back. How about staying in the SEC? Jaxson Dart at Ole Miss. Third year now to be the starter for Ole Miss. Won 11 games last year for Ole Miss. Runs that RPO game, has a great feel for what Lane Kiffin wants to do. Here's a curveball. Preston Stone, SMU. Really like what he can do. 10-2 last year in 23. They were in the American. They're now in the ACC. Look out for these guys. Takes a lot of downfield shots in that Rhett Lashley system. Preston Stone's ready to have a big year in the first year of the ACC.
The Herbie Award for Best Field General goes to Ole Miss quarterback Jaxson Dart.
We saw so much success from Jaxson Dart last year, and Kirk, they're saying even better already in camp. He's working on those intermediate throws.
Yeah, the transfer from USC from a few years ago, like I said, his third year now is starting. You're right. I think when you play that much football and have that much success, 23 touchdowns, only 5 picks, this is what I like about him. You get down to that red area, especially the low red area, his feet are a factor. Not like Matt Corral, who was always being able to run the football, but he does have enough athletic ability to make the defensive coordinator have to prepare for that, which opens up the passing game. I expect him, again, they won 11 games last year, first time in Ole Miss school history. And I think we're all excited to see what Jaxson Dart and Ole Miss can do again in 2024.
Yeah, they're not going to surprise anyone this year, but I think they're up for that task. They're sort of embracing the bullseye being on their back a little bit more than it has been. All right, let's go to the other side of the ball. How about a game wrecker on the defense?
Yeah, these are the guys that each week an offensive coordinator sees them and just thinks, oh, man, we got to work around this guy. How about Mason Graham, number 55? I love watching this guy play. Probably my favorite player to watch in the country. And I love putting a big guy in the middle, not just the edge players, when you look at what he can do. Ahmad Hassanin from, just a great player from Boise State. The size of this guy is what stands out to me. 6'3", 271, 12 and a half sacks last year. Number 91 knows how to play the game. And James Pierce, we had to have that edge guy. The guy that just wins with quickness. Usually you go to the SEC. James Pierce, 10 sacks last year. I think he's the best edge rusher in the sport of college football. Look out for him in Knoxville this year.
The Herbie Award for Best Game Wrecker goes to Michigan defensive lineman Mason Graham.
It just seems like everything Mason Graham does is explosive, Kirk.
That's a great word for him. You know, you don't say that often about the big defensive tackles, but you're right. He uses size and especially his quickness and instincts to be a difference maker. That game against Alabama in the semifinal, he took it over, was able to get through and get through some of those seams through the center and guard and make so many plays in the backfield. He can rush the quarterback. The national championship game against Washington, again, a big part of that game. So Brandon Graham, to me, and that entire defensive line, they lost a lot, but the defensive line will be one of the strengths in all the country.
You know, NFL scouts who were watching Michigan's defense from last year, they would get so distracted by Graham, and he wasn't draft eligible yet. And they're like, wait, when can we get this guy? I bet they'll be paying attention this season.
Oh, yeah.
All right, how about some question marks for some contending teams? Title contenders are the biggest questions to answer, Kirk.
Yeah, these are 5 of them, and we're going to start with Alabama. Obviously, Nick Saban, 17 years, 6 national championships, the best coach to ever do it. they also lost a lot of skill around Jalen Milroe. So some new faces. I think we're all just anxious to see how that's going to go. Georgia always has talent, but let's face it. On offense, they lost Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey. They've got new running backs with Trevor Etienne coming over from Florida. So you're going to have some new faces around Carson Beck, and I think the pressure to always have to deal with. For Ohio State, Greg talked about it early. They always have talent, right? They got a new quarterback in Will Howard from Kansas State, but will they develop the chemistry? Will they be the team instead of individuals and the mental toughness it takes to make a run? Can Oregon get over the hump? Last year, so close. Came up a little bit short against Washington twice and got left out of the playoff. Now you lose Bo Nix. You got Dylan Gabriel. Can this be the year that Dan Lanning gets over the hump? And then with Sark, a lot like Alabama and Georgia, a lot of new skill players. Don't forget, not only do you lose Xavier Worthy, you lose the back, Jonathan Brooks. They have an injury to C.J. Baxter. So a new back in Jaden Blue, but some questions there for Texas as well.
The Herbie Award for the biggest questions for a title contender goes to Alabama.
Hey, when you're replacing the GOAT, you're going to have questions, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's great that he's got Jalen Milroe back. I mean, that helps. And I'm a huge fan of Kalen DeBoer. Anybody who's followed his career knows what he's capable of doing. But you can put anybody into this position, and there's going to be a lot of people that, well, Nick Saban didn't used to do it like that, or Nick Saban didn't used to do that. And I think Kalen DeBoer understands that. And it's just like when Nick Saban left Michigan State and he went down to Baton Rouge. He was an outsider. And those LSU fans at first, they didn't know really how to accept Nick Saban. How did he change that? He won football games. And that's what Kalen DeBoer is going to have to do. Forget about Nick Saban. Forget about Bear Bryant. Forget about all the lore of Alabama football. Be himself, because what he's done has worked for him throughout his career, and just go out and execute and get your team fired up to play and go win football games, and that'll quiet all the noise around the program.
Yeah, Coach Saban, as you know, Kirk, is sensitive to that too. He has an office in the facility there at Alabama, but really doesn't go to it because he doesn't want to be there too much as a distraction. Instead, he's going to be sitting next to you on College Game Day. A good reminder of what we'll all be excited to see. He's really good at TV. And these are prestigious, guys. This is really exciting to see who Kirk thinks should win these awards. There's a lot to get to as we've got Kirk here with us, but we're going to do some standout schools. That's where we start in this segment. Let's start with the best new uniform. Kirk, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, uniforms to me is something I love, you know, and you go back to that Deion Sanders, you gotta look good, feel good, to play good. How about those Ole Miss all whites? There's just something about what Lane Kiffin is doing down in Oxford with the way they're changing the image of that program. And I think the unis that they've been pulling out here lately are about as good as anybody that's putting out these new fresh unis. So Ole Miss, to me, that top uni. The best band, I mean, come on. There's some great bands out there, but the best damn band in the land is in Columbus, Ohio, and they practice more than the Ohio State football team. I mean, you've never seen a team more disciplined and have such an impact on a stadium than the Ohio State marching band. We appreciate them and everything they do. Some of the fans go just to watch the band, not even the football team. The best student section. I get a lot of grief about this. Who has the best students? Come on. It's a no-brainer. There's a lot of great student sections out there, but the Penn State student section, general admission, they're in there 2 hours before the game starts. They're as good as there is, especially the whiteout. We love the Penn State student section. Congrats, Nittany Lions. And the best mascot, another tough one. A lot of great mascots, but are you kidding? This is the modern day San Diego Chicken, the Oregon Duck. Not just that uni, look at him, but the personality. He's an instigator. He's always up to shenanigans when College Game Day comes, or there he is doing the push-ups. The Duck brings his own props. He's very creative. Laura, there are a lot of great mascots, but I got to give the Duck the nod here as the best mascot in the land.
You know, I got to agree with you. That Duck is up to some hijinks. Like you kind of, if you're down in the field with the Duck, you got to look over your shoulder because he might be doing something crazy behind you. All right, now this is really cool because a lot of these players are going to be super motivated coming into next season. The ones who are coming off of injuries. Let's get to the Welcome Back Award.
Yeah, great to see these guys work their way back to have an impact on this 24 season. Jalen Daniels, man, it seems like he's been fighting injuries throughout his career. Only played in 3 games a year ago. He's healthy. He's ready. Some people believe Kansas is a real threat and a team to look out for in the Big 12. Riley Leonard, boy, what a story he was last year with Duke. Duke was a great team. He goes down in the Notre Dame game, of all games, with an injury. Not the same, missed the last 6 games, and now he's back, obviously transferred to Notre Dame. He's going to have a great year this year. Cam Rising got injured 2 years ago in the Rose Bowl against Penn State, missed all of last year, has worked his way back. Cannot wait to see Cam Rising. What a great leader, one of the best in the country for the Utah Utes.
The Welcome Back Herbie Award goes to Utah quarterback Cam Rising.
Well, Cam Rising, all you have to know is that Kyle Whittingham, his head coach, he's been coaching a long time. He said that Cam Rising is the best leader that he's ever been around. And for them to lose him last year, it was tough for them to try to overcome that. But it's great to see number 7 back, healthy. Again, you look at that Big 12. Now they're out of the Pac-12 into the Big 12. A lot of people feel that they're the team to beat, Laura, in that conference. And a big part of that reason is seeing number 7 back under center.
I love it. Cannot wait to see him back out there. He's always been a focused but emotional player. You got to know there's a little extra for him this season. Love that Herbie Award. All right, the transfer portal always shocks. Over 2,800 transfers this past year, Kirk. It's kind of hard to figure out who is where. Who's your biggest impact quarterback transfer?
Yeah, let's start with the quarterbacks. I think Dylan Gabriel, not only is he a talented player coming out of Oklahoma, now going to Oregon, but where he lands, I think he's got a chance to have a big year. He's got a ton of talent around him. You see the big offensive line, so keep an eye for him. DJ Uiagalelei, going from Oregon State, he decides to leave. He'll now be at Florida State. Remember, at Clemson, this is his 3rd school. Things didn't go that well. He was able to get things back in order at Oregon State. Now people are excited to see what he can do in Tallahassee. Cam Ward, another quarterback, transferring from Washington State out of the Pac-12. He'll be in Miami of Florida. Excited to see what he can do. Some people think they're a real threat to win the ACC and maybe make a run into the playoff and make maybe a run to a national title with Cam Ward as a quarterback.
The Herbie Award for Impact Quarterback Transfer goes to Oregon quarterback Dylan Gabriel.
Man.
Will Stein is the offensive coordinator there, Laura, and they scored 44 points a game a year ago. And I know they had Bo Nix, but you got a new quarterback in Dylan Gabriel. I really think the skill around him with Tez Johnson and Jordan James, the running back, he's got a lot to work with. And I don't think they're going to have much of a drop-off offensively. They lose great players. I mentioned Bo Nix, but I still think with Gabriel there, it's going to be a different kind of offense because you don't have the running threat the way you did with Bo Nix. But I still think they're going to score close to 40 points a game.
Well, later on, we're going to get to our potential Heisman watch, and I wouldn't be surprised if Dylan Gabriel's on that list for some people as well. All right, those are the quarterbacks, but what about the biggest impact from non-QB transfers?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. This is the world that we live in now with these transfers. Caleb Downs was at Alabama last year as a true freshman and ended up leading the team in tackles. I think he has a great impact on what he can do for the Ohio State secondary. They got a lot of experience around him, so he steps into a very good position. Damian Martinez, another, just like DJ Uiagalelei, another player from Oregon State that left. He's at Miami as well. A chance to, I think, have a great year because he brings physicality. Nick Scorton left Purdue. He had 10 sacks a year ago. He's now at Texas A&M. You can see what he can do as far as athletic ability to get after the quarterback. Expect the SEC to get used to hearing the name of Nick Scorton.
The Herbie Award for Impact Non-Quarterback Transfer goes to Ohio State defensive back Caleb Downs.
Yeah, Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator from Ohio State, says he's a coach's dream. He understands everything, picks up everything, and he takes the meeting to the field. He's a pro. I really felt watching him last year, I would have never guessed he was a true freshman. He had such poise about him, whether he's blitzing, whether he's in coverage, whether it's making a tackle in the open field. He's surrounded with a veteran group, and now he could become the quarterback of that secondary despite all that experience of being around Jim Knowles now in his third year as Ohio State's defensive coordinator. So look for Caleb Downs, to me, the biggest impact of any transfer, in my opinion, in the country.
Yeah, Kirk, you mentioned him being a pro. Well, his brother Josh starts for the Indianapolis Colts, and then his father Gary spent a bunch of time in the league, too. He just knows how to get it done, and we can't wait to see what he does this season. We've talked a little bit about how different college football is going to look next season, but a big reason why, big changes at head coach heading into 2024. 3 of the 4 playoff teams from last year have new coaches, with Kalen DeBoer taking over for Nick Saban at Alabama, Jed Fish replacing DeBoer at Washington, and then Sharon Moore, who we just talked about, getting promoted to replace Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. Kirk, which head coach has the biggest shoes to fill?
Well, you could put in an argument for Sharon Moore, but obviously when the greatest coach in the history of the game steps away, there's a pretty big shoes to fill. And Kalen DeBoer, even though he got his team all the way to the national championship at Washington, it's a new region. You know how it is in the SEC when an outsider comes in and you're dealing with the pressure of trying to do things the way Nick Saban did. Kalen DeBoer needs to be Kalen DeBoer, not worry about Nick Saban, coach the way he does, and he's going to do, in my opinion, a great job. Impact defensive coordinator to me is going to be D'Anton Lynn. Played at Penn State, grew up in coaching. Last year he was at UCLA, did such a good job that Lincoln Riley went to his rivalry and said, I'm going to take this defensive coordinator to try to improve this USC defense that has really had some issues over the last couple of years. Was the best fit for it as a new head coach. I really like Mike Elko, who was a defensive coordinator there under Jimbo Fisher. He goes back, he will demand that this team do the little things right. And when you do the little things right, eventually that'll lead to doing everything right. So I think Mike Elko will fit in just perfectly there in College Station and bring a little bit of a kind of a toughness or an edge that I think's been missing there the last few years.
It's a great point. I mean, they haven't lacked for talent. It's been more about developing that talent and getting that fourth quarter toughness that you're referencing there in College Station. It's a proud fan base, too. All right, this is where we would have a drum roll if we had a drummer, but we don't, so we're just going to do it in our heads. It's time for the ultimate Herbie. First of all, what does this award mean to you?
This is my favorite award because it means so much about a player, not just on the field, but off the field. And again, kind of the world that we live in, a lot of individuality, a lot of focus on what's in it for me. The great teams focus on the team. And having players like these 3 allow you to be able to have a chance to focus on it's still about winning. We still keep score on the scoreboard, right? I mean, so it's still about the team and the guys that come together. And I think all 3 of our candidates are great representations of making it about us and doing things on and off the field the right way. And let's take a look at the 3 that we have. It was tough to pick only 3 because I think there's a lot of great candidates this year in college football that would fit the bill. But let's start with Texas. Jahdae Barron is a guy that, again, experienced guy, talked with the Texas coaches. Sark cannot say enough about what Jahdae Barron brings to this table. And again, makes a lot of plays. He's that nickel back, plays in the slot, does a lot, such a diversified approach, but a great guy off the field. Jeffrey Bassett started for 4 years. And when you talk to Dan Lanning about his team, they want to win a national championship. And a big part of that is what Jeffrey Bassett, who could have gone to the NFL last year but had unfinished business, he felt he wanted to come back. And Ohio State, a lot of great players, a lot of great individual ability. But Emeka Egbuka is going to be the guy that I think can keep this team focused on, again, the team goals first. And now it's his turn to shine after waiting behind Marvin Harrison and others.
The ultimate Herbie Award goes to Oregon linebacker Jeffrey Bassa.
A true honor for Jeffrey Bassa, and Dan Lanning says that he demands excellence, Kirk.
Yes, he does. And like I said, I think Oregon's starting to get used to high expectations. You see that Washington game, they came up short in Seattle that day. They ended up getting a rematch in the Pac-12 championship with a chance possibly to go into the playoff and came up short again. And I think those 2 losses really kind of fueled the fire in the offseason for Oregon. And nobody represents that attitude more than Jeffrey Basso. So really a great ambassador for the sport, great ambassador for the Oregon Ducks. And I'm glad we're able to recognize him as being kind of that ultimate Herbie, doing things the right way on and off the field.
I love it. By the way, he's going to be trying to lead this Oregon team to the college football playoff in their first season in the Big Ten. So wrap your mind around that one. This was so much fun. Kirk, thanks for handing out these awards and giving some shine to players that maybe are well known, some who are not as well known. It gets you really excited for college football. And also, of course, you can catch Kirk with the rest of the Game Day crew. That's coming your way. Game Day live from Dublin at 9 a.m. Eastern this Saturday. You got to get ready to get over there to Ireland.
I know. It's going to be a haul. I've got a Thursday night preseason game,
right,
so I can't leave till Friday. I think I'm going to be on the ground for 8 or 9 hours actually in Dublin,
wow.
But we cannot wait to go. Looking forward to it.
Dude, only you. Congrats, and can't wait for college football season.